All the indicators were that we had a good crop of hatchlings emerging. They had excellent growing conditions, good forage conditions. Our forage was in good shape. All indicators that we were seeing since flood up in October of this year are pointing towards a much better crawfish season.
Thanks for joining us on Louisiana's Playground Podcast, your roadmap to all things Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm Brady Raynard.
And I'm Jillian Corder. We're excited to bring you the authentic stories and experiences of Southwest Louisiana. It's all the tools you need to build your own personal Lake Charles itinerary.
Episode number 62 coming your way, talking to Mr. Todd Fontenot of the LSU AgCenter. And we're talking one of my favorite subjects, a most delicious subject, crawfish.
Of course, we do begin the show, as always, with the taste of Southwest Louisiana in a segment that we call On V Eats.
And we head out to not a crawfish place, but instead burgers. Round Top Burger House in Westlake, a spot that's really carved out a wonderful spot in a lot of people's regular restaurant rotations here, and especially Westlake, opening in October of 2012. And it was really the third attempt for the owners. They had opened up a few others as practice runs before really settling in on what Round Top offers, which is that classic American kind of diner food burgers, chicken burgers, fried chicken, po' boys, and a lot of other kind of eclectic items that they'll kind of rotate. Like they've had fried ribs, for example.
It's a little slice of Americana for
Sure.
you. And what's really cool is Miss Lisa, who owns the joint, said that this actually her first job ever was working there when it was a fried chicken place, Private McCoy's. And so she had the opportunity to take over that building and start her own restaurant, and she couldn't pass it up. And we're glad that she didn't pass that up because it's really, really good. Nostalgic recipes, she said. Things that she learned either on the job or from her family growing up. And man, did she do a good job.
It is. And I think the thing that stands out is the crust on all of the fried foods, whether it be the fish or the shrimp or even the chicken. It's all so crispy and so flavorful. You can see the seasoning on it.
There's a secret.
Yeah, that's she did throw around that S word a couple times.
There's a secret. She kept saying there's a secret, so I kept leaning in, hoping she was going to spill it, and she did not.
And so it's apparently a very good secret because she wouldn't say what it was. So it's my least favorite kind of secret, the kind that I don't know. But one thing that she did say they do there often, and you'll see it reflected on the menu pretty often, is that she listens to the customers. If the customers say they don't like something, she wants to know, is it a one-off or is there something here to improve?
Yeah, and she likes to face those challenges head on. And if someone says, oh, they didn't have a great experience with a certain dish, she is more than willing to listen and change it to better please the masses.
And look, that's all you can really ask for out of a restaurant, and they do a good job of that. Let's start with what we've got. It's a burger spot, so of course, at least one of us needed to go with a burger.
That's going to be me. Bacon cheddar burger. So it's got applewood smoked bacon on it, cheddar cheese, mayo, mustard, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion. And we added a fried egg on top because why not? I love a fried egg on a burger. This burger's so juicy already. It's not like it needs that at all. But man, it's just even more delicious. And the bacon, I'm not normally a bacon gal. Not generally my thing.
Right.
So crispy, I could eat it all day long. In fact, the parts that fell off of the burger, like the little bits of bacon, I actually picked them up and finished eating them. And that's not like me to do.
See, you're welcome. I ordered it for you. I didn't even let you get an option to say that don't worry about the bacon. I got it on there.
And I'm glad you did.
I just had a feeling, you know. I went with the fried seafood basket. There's hand-battered fish, shrimp, fries, Texas toast, and then their homemade tartar sauce. I'm personally not the biggest fan of mayonnaise, which means the tartar sauce wasn't my jam. However, it comes highly recommended. She said that there's even been people coming in trying to get the recipe for it, that she's tight-lipped.
She's not giving up the secrets.
But, and from everything else, I could just tell you that the tartar sauce was very likely incredible. As for the fish, soft, crispy crust, thick cut of fish. It's very flaky. There's no fishy taste. Just a wonderful piece of fish. It really was. It wasn't the standard cornmeal that you'll see in some instances. Just a beautiful piece of fish. As well as the shrimp. Now they're local from Bayou Shrimp. They reminded me a lot of what you would see with popcorn shrimp. So they were slightly smaller. They weren't a jumbo shrimp, but because they're smaller, you get so many more of them.
You get a lot.
It's a lot on the tray. And man, they're so well seasoned, and they were so tasty. I chose not to dip them in something because I enjoyed eating them.
Yeah. Well, that batter
without all the sauce on it.
That batter is really something to write home about.
It's really, really good. The toast was a huge piece of French bread that they kind of that they cooked down into toast there, and so each of those parts added into a huge basket that was awesome and fairly priced as well. And just because she was like, you know what? You didn't get enough food. We're going to give you more. We want you to try this chicken. She brought out some of the chicken tender platter.
That's right. The chicken strips are amazing. That batter, no, she said she has a secret. She's not willing to share it. I totally get that because it is unique. It is what makes them really different.
And
it really
very
sets them
flaky.
apart.
Like it's a very flaky crust.
Flaky. And I mean, for fried chicken, like it doesn't feel heavy or fried. It's not greasy. It's like a light and flaky crust on that chicken. It is really, really good. And served with white gravy, which is always my favorite. And just delicious.
And I'm not the biggest white gravy fan, but that one was really, really good.
Yeah.
A ton of flavor.
Yeah, it's very good stuff.
That she uses obviously in the stock to create it, and it is awesome. Honestly, you get any of those three, and I don't think you can go wrong. It's a great kind of
it's like a slice of home kind of.
Yeah, I was about to say you're going to feel comfortable however you get there.
Yep.
And you place the order right to the left. You go sit down. One of their nice employees will bring it out to you with big smiles, asking if you need anything while you're there.
Like 15 times someone came by and was like, "Y'all good?" And yes, we are.
Yeah,
and they're
it's very
so
much
nice.
Louisiana.
It is very.
Right?
It is hospitality at its finest. I love it.
And it was really, really good. Obviously located in Westlake, so it's just off the interstate. Actually, 5 minutes from work here
Not far at
the
all.
Visitor Center.
Just over the bridge.
Down the main strip of Sampson Street. If you're in Westlake, you can't miss it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great spot, real convenient, especially for the interstate. If you're got a quick lunch break or something like that on tap, this is the perfect spot to go.
From a great meal to a great guest, we welcome on Todd Fontenot, a crawfish extension agent, probably the best title that we've had on the show so far, with the LSU AgCenter. Todd's been in that role since 2023 and with the AgCenter for nearly 2 decades. In addition to that, he also helps run his family farm of crawfish, rice, soybean, and cattle, and he's on the show today to share his experience with the wonderful world of crawfish. Welcome to the show, Todd.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So we like to get started letting our listeners know how you play in Louisiana's playground. So we have some rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, so the first question, let's just say, I think I'm going to know your answer, but we do ask all of our guests these same 3 questions. So the number 1 is crawfish or gumbo?
Crawfish.
Not that you're paid to say that
No,
answer, but obviously that's where your heart is.
But you can put crawfish in gumbo, so we good.
Okay.
Either way.
Either
That's
way,
fair.
you're good.
That's
It's
fair.
got crawfish in it. Okay. Number 2, poolside or beachside?
Beachside.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're iffy about that.
I'm iffy about that. Yeah.
Neither?
I'll go along. I'm not crazy about the beach all the time, but my wife and kids don't want to hear me say that, so I'd have to say the beach.
Oh, well, Brady he gets struck to the beach too because I like the beach. So he's also forced to participate.
Right. We understand.
Okay, last one, concert or comedy show?
Oh, comedy show.
Okay. Yeah.
I love comedies.
Love to laugh.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, understand that. Well, look, let's get into the topic at hand, crawfish, right? So, as a crawfish agent, right? Tell me about that role and then the AgCenter's involvement in the industry.
Okay, so my role is a crawfish extension agent, and through the LSU AgCenter, the way our organization is developed, it's teaching, research, and extension. So I'm an extension agent, and the role of extension agents in any crop, any commodity, is to take the information from our researchers, which is one of the legs of the LSU AgCenter, and bring it to the producers. So extension agents take research that has been, or processes or techniques that have been tested, research-based, and we bring that to the producers. We work with all the producers. We try to answer their questions, address problems that they're having, and help them be more efficient in their production or increase their production or whatever it may be.
And you yourself, as a farmer, you guys farm crawfish as well on your farm.
Right. So I had, prior to coming to the LSU AgCenter, I had experience on our own personal farm. And then through my role as a 4-H agent and then as an extension ag agent, we call that an A&R agent, working with producers, developed more knowledge in that area. And then when this position became available, I had a lot of the qualifications, but I've still been learning a lot on the job. There's a lot of things, some of the little more minute facts and things that happen with crawfish that you kind of learn on the job and with experience. And the more things you see, the more you learn.
Takes a lot to be the crawfish, the state crawfish king, huh?
I don't know about king, but I work with all the producers, and there's a lot of questions out there. There's a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different conditions.
Sure.
So, it's a little different every time you get a question.
Speaking of conditions, since we just went through a pretty historic weather event here in Southwest Louisiana with, I think they've topped us out at 5-something inches of snow. How does that affect crawfish?
Yes. So we had a variation. I've heard as many as 14 inches.
Sure.
Where I live, we had around 6 to 8 inches. So a lot of variation and some cold temperatures. So what really happens through this weather event is what we're focusing more on is the cold temperatures. So crawfish being cold-blooded crustaceans, when the temperatures drop, they slow down. They stop moving. They don't really re-burrow. A lot of people seem to think they burrow back in the levees where they came out of, but they just really get down really low. They kind of get into that mud, under that straw, under that vegetation for protection. Because they want protection from the elements, but they also want to be protected from predators.
Sure.
Just like when they're molting, they become very slow. They hide because they're vulnerable at that point. So they know how to protect themselves. And they just really stop moving, stop eating. They're not attracted to the baits to come to the traps. So it just kind of slows everything down.
Hibernation mode.
Yeah, it's kind of a temporary hibernation, I guess you could say.
So you would say ultimately it's just a slight delay versus being an issue.
Well, again, it varies. We've had issues in the past where we've had a number of days of very cold temperatures that did affect the young crawfish. Again, I don't remember exactly the time when it happened.
Sure.
And then again, what stage our crawfish are at.
Sure.
Naturally, if we were much colder for a much longer extended period of time with most probably much smaller crawfish, then there could be maybe a more of a problem. We could maybe have more mortality. But we're kind of at the stage of the game now. We're moving into the season more. Crawfish were emerged earlier. They seem to have been growing well. So a lot of the size was almost harvestable size.
Okay.
So they tend to most have survived better.
Yeah.
So they slow down, and then again, how's the weather after this event? We're supposed to be in almost 60 degrees, I think, this afternoon, and by the weekend we'll be in the 60s.
Love it.
So it looks like we're gonna have a pretty fast recovery on temperature.
Yeah.
So they're gonna warm up. It still takes them a little while. It doesn't change overnight. Some people said the last time they experienced something like this, it took almost 2 weeks to kind of get back to normal. I think with this temperature, this weather we're going to have, I think it might be a little quicker than that.
Well, look, crawfish season is anticipated in Louisiana as Mardi Gras, Christmas, Halloween. It's a holiday here, right? For a lot of people, this multi-month stretch.
Right.
So the $1 million question, the 2025 crawfish season, after what we went through last year, it was a very poor season.
Right.
What are we looking at in 2025?
Well, last season was most probably the worst on record due to the drought and those extreme heat conditions that we experienced. All indicators that we were seeing since flood up in October of this year are pointing towards a much better season, a more normal season.
Can you please repeat that again?
A more normal season.
So a good, normal, strong season.
We're hoping that, that was the indicators then.
Okay.
But I always kind of qualified by saying Mother Nature can throw a monkey wrench.
Sure.
And that's what this was. This was one. So I'm hoping we don't get multiple events like this. Then we can't predict what's going to happen. But all the indicators were that we had a good crop of hatchlings emerging. They had excellent growing conditions in most of October, November, December. Good forage conditions. Our forage was in good shape from the rainfalls we received. So everything was pointing towards a much better season. And we are seeing much better catches than we were last year this time. We're actually seeing crawfish, so that's much better, no matter how you look at it.
For the novice here, regarding crawfish, it's interesting because crawfish is treated more like a crop,
right?
Than it is like shrimp. Shrimpers go out in the Gulf and they collect as many shrimp as they can, and there you go. Crawfish is obviously different. You are in fact farming them.
Correct.
Can you kind of walk us through how that works?
Okay, yeah, you're right. So 60 years ago, crawfishing was more of a pastime. It was a cultural pastime, family type event, and some there were some established ponds, very few, but there was a lot already being fished in the basin and those swampier areas. So it was basically a pastime. You were able to get them at certain times of the year. It was a very short window also for a lot of those areas. Well, over the years, it has become an industry. It's treated as a crop. It's not just by chance or lagniappe anymore. It's a managed crop that producers take a lot of effort in. There's a lot of investment in it now because crawfish producers have become much larger. They're relying on it for supplement income for their farm because most of our commodity prices, including rice, are really down, and the cost of production is really up. So crawfish has filled, in a lot of cases, that void of income to keep those farms profitable. So they're treating it serious. It's being treated very serious from flood up, the management of the stubble, the management of the young crawfish. They're trying to increase harvesting efficiency. Everything is being looked at to make it more efficient and as profitable as possible.
Yeah, from a hobby to a livelihood for a lot of people.
And if I'm not mistaken, so please correct any inaccuracies here, from what I've learned is that there's a symbiotic relationship between rice and crawfish, oftentimes for a lot of farmers. So if I'm not mistaken, and maybe I shouldn't go this deep into it, but essentially a farm will have two rice fields, and every other year they're switching which one they flood for crawfish after they harvest the rice, and then the other one now is rice that year, and then they'll switch to the other one and flood that one, and last year's crawfish field is now this year's rice field.
Correct. You're right. So in our typical rice production, for many, many years, the majority of our rice acres have been in some type of rotation. 50 years ago, a lot of our rice fields were in a rotation with pasture. So it was in rice crop one year. After the rice crop, cattle were put on those fields, grazed, and into the next year. Then that following year, it was planted back in rice. In the 60s into late 60s, soybeans came in. So it became a rice-soybean rotation. Then as problems with that, kind of, soybean yields were kind of iffy and cost of production, crawfish started coming in. And now that has become a rice crawfish rotation. Now, the difference with that is that the crawfish actually, you start your crawfish management while that rice crop is still in production because these fields are restocked most every year that are going into production. So rice that's grown in the spring of this year will be stocked or reseeded late in the spring for fishing or harvesting in the fall and into the next spring. Then after they're finished fishing, the ground is re-prepared, leveled, whatever field work needs to be done so that field will be ready for rice the following year, like you said.
Right. And so essentially a rice farmer has to end up learning almost two different ideologies of farming because they're, significantly different farming a plant and farming an animal.
Right. And you're doing them at the same time, partially. So there's a lot of considerations that you have to take as you're going along. Now, we do have a few crawfish ponds. We'd say most probably 10% of our acreage are what we call permanent crawfish ponds. They're harvested every year, but they never really grow a crop. Some may grow a rice crop every year and try to fish that same field. But we figure 10 to 15% of our acreage is that way. And then there's others that are just planted in some type of forage, rice or sorghum Sudan, just for crawfish harvest.
Okay. So walk us through, if you're starting out a field with crawfish, right? From that moment at the farm to my dinner plate at night, walk us through that.
So like now, harvesting crawfish now. Mm-hmm. Well, so the majority of our crawfish are sold as a live market. That's really what our industry is surviving on, or needs to have survival, is moving this fresh live market of crawfish to restaurants to mainly boil. Mm-hmm. So that is what our industry really has to maintain to stay afloat and to continue. That's why it's so important that our crawfish gets moved out, to our big markets, whether it's in Houston, Dallas, Little Rock, into Mississippi. The casinos there purchase a lot. Mm-hmm. But we need that live market to stay strong, to get these, because it's a perishable item. It has to move every day. Yeah. You can't just sit on it and hope something comes up. They have to move, and they have to be consumed within a reasonable period of time. It can only stay in a cooler for a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. So we're really reliant on that live market, and if people consume them live, boiled, and
you're not.
That didn't sound right.
And they pick them up live.
We purchase them live and
take them home to prepare.
Boil. There you go. So now, as the season kind of builds up and there's more small crawfish at times, there is a peeler market for peeled tail meat, which can be stored. Mm-hmm. There's also whole boil, which is a process where they're bagging boiled crawfish and freezing to make them more available and to ship them further. So there's been a lot of changes within them. The farmers have changed a lot.
Sure.
To manage their crawfish better, but our processors and buyers have also increased their businesses to handle more crawfish and to move them even further and further.
And it's really remarkable that while this feels like such a cultural staple for people my age that have never known any difference, crawfish is still a relatively new endeavor, I guess, so to speak, for us. Like you said, up in the 60s, they weren't crawfish farming yet. They were still doing soybeans.
Right. That was right. There were ponds all over the place. Now, the basin has existed much longer.
Right.
Yeah.
I forget for how many years, like the Crawfish Festival has been in existence.
Right.
So it has been longer and an older tradition or cultural practice than as you come more into the prairie area of the state.
Yeah. But as an industry as a whole, it's still evolving and
it's
adapting.
It's still evolving. And it's going to have to continue in order to get these crawfish moved to markets.
Well, and very different from other products that these farmers are producing. Talk about rice. Well, once that's dried out, you're good to go. That can sit on a shelf as long as necessary. It's very different.
You can store it in the grain bin, and once it's milled, it sits on the shelf or in storage.
Very different scenario.
Right. Different.
Now, let's talk to my favorite part of this conversation, consuming said crawfish. What do you feel like, and through your experience as both an eater, right?
I've eaten a few.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple.
What are some of the best ways to experience crawfish for maybe people that aren't familiar with it? Because there still is that little bit of that stigma that, it's a yard bug. It's it's all of those things.
No, it's a delicacy. No. We have our typical crawfish boils that I think most people enjoy, but there's still the prepared dishes of etouffee and fettuccines and salads. It's a very it's a healthy food, actually. If you look at the dietetic information on it, it's a healthy food to eat. It's just like any of our other foods. they can be really, really healthy for you, or you can really, really change them.
It's really bad when you start dipping it in the mayonnaise dip. That's where it'll get you.
Yeah.
Right. So there's if you're very health conscious, there's ways to prepare crawfish that can be very healthy and very good for you. So there's a lot of options.
And otherwise, cook it with sausage and potatoes.
Blend it together. But there's a lot of ways it can be prepared. It's endless the ways that crawfish can be prepared. There's
What's your favorite?
Either etouffee or boiled.
Okay,
that's my favorite. We've seen like through our 4-H program, there's cookery contests and there's seafood dishes. There's usually a seafood category, sometimes particularly crawfish. And and I've helped judge some of these, and it's amazing some of the dishes that these kids come up with incorporating crawfish.
Sure.
So there's just a number of ways that it can really be incorporated into your meals.
And the number one, as you mentioned, a crawfish boil. I mean, it is a Louisiana tradition at this point. As we've kind of mentioned, it's up there with things like Mardi Gras and a lot of the other things that we do here in the state. What do you think is so special about it, and how much do you recommend people that haven't attended a boil or gotten boiled at a restaurant to take part in this while you're here?
Personally, it's something I've experienced since I was a young child. At one point, we went out and actually caught them ourselves before it was a bigger industry. And it's just something as far back as I can remember, we had crawfish boils. And it was usually a big family event. It was often on Good Friday, which some may say we shouldn't have been doing that, but it was a family event. It was family. So I think a lot of people experienced that over the years. And it meant family getting together, bringing everyone together, eating together, which is a big part of our culture. And, it's something that I think a lot of other places don't really experience.
Right.
But it's still, and it's a very, it's most one of the best things to get together and boil and eat together. And so for those who are not used to it, it's an excellent experience. It's very good food. It's an activity that you're doing something at the same time. You're preparing your own food.
Right.
You're doing it the way you like to do it. Everybody has their own. I do it the best way.
Yeah, exactly. My way's the best way, but continue.
I think my way is the best way too. Yeah. I eat them, but so that's developed over time. This one knows how you do it this certain way. I do mine this way. This seasoning, I use this seasoning. What you can or cannot do, but it shows people going out there doing their thing, and entertaining and being entertaining with friends, family. It's just brings people together.
And a lot of restaurants hold really still good crawfish boiling experiences for those that don't have the pot, don't have the burner, and are visiting.
Right.
That's a really nice substitute.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's convenient.
Sure.
If you can get together with friends, all the better. And but it's good that our restaurants are offering that for those people to come and experience. And that's what we.
And you still really get the experience.
Yes.
I mean, you get most of it. You just don't have to do the legwork.
You don't have to do the cleanup.
Right, but because they still play the same music that you'd be playing there at the bowls.
Have a drink.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just brings people together, and it's a great thing to talk about and to experience.
It's an experience.
It is. It can make a whole experience out of it.
Obviously, it holds great cultural significance here, but also for Louisiana's economy, plays a major role.
Oh, definitely. It's not just it's really helping the producers, as I mentioned, because of some of the cases with other crops that are lower and depressed prices and increased production cost. However, with crawfish too, has taken a burden of some of that increased production cost because fuel has gone up for irrigating, and so it is pricey as you look around it. But it does play a big role now that you have all the economy of, and we saw the depression in this last year with no crawfish. Bait was not sold, traps were not sold. There was just less purchasing of the supplies that it takes to produce the crop.
Right.
And those that are in that business, they noticed it.
They took a hit too.
They took a hit, and the restaurants, now we have a lot of these drive-through boiling spots. They took a big hit last year. A lot of them they never opened. So if you look at the economy, the stimulus to the economy from all the restaurants, the the boiling spots, the suppliers, the bait dealers. It's created a big industry.
My belly.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah. So here's hoping that obviously that this
Sure.
year is a good rebounding year for the entire industry.
Those indicators.
Right. A lot of restaurants have started serving already. A lot of these little drive-through locations are serving already. So they're actually a little. I think everybody was anxious this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The size might be a little small right now because it's early. It's
Sure.
still early. That's what everybody has to still remember too. But people are anxious. So I think this year a lot of people got started a little quicker in light of last year, which is good.
A little verbal meme. Just take a picture of someone, handing out the crawfish. Nature's healing.
Nature's healing.
Nature's
exactly. And the prices will reflect a better season, hopefully.
Right. Crawfish is very much still a supply and demand basis. So it's most likely one of the things that you can see the easiest of supply and demand. As supply is going to increase and demand's increasing, we're going to see a decrease in prices. So I think as the season goes on, they're going to become much more affordable for the everyday person.
Well, someone that's really interested in seeing some of this stuff close up, or maybe learning about a little bit more of the crawfish industry and then its cultural significance here, are there any tours or forums, museums, those types of things that you know of that really can help that?
I know there's several bed and breakfasts that offer tours along with their services of that, have crawfish ponds in the area. So there are places when people come in, they can see. And I mean, there's ponds everywhere. So, contact the farmer that you know. And
and I know our friends at Jeff Davis Parish also offer a crawfish farm. They're partnered with some farmers.
With someone there also.
So that's also a good tool to be able to use.
Right.
Well, I think a cool way to kind of end this conversation is leaving people with a neat little nugget. Is there something about crawfish that is really lesser known that really might surprise people and maybe might pique an interest or something?
Like, are they actually very clean animals?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're growing in a very clean environment. So definitely a very clean animal. And you do hear people talk about certain crawfish taste different. And soil type does have some bearing on that. Some that are grown on different. Some people can tell if they're from very southern part of Louisiana, or as you go a little further north, because soil types do change.
Yeah.
We have varying soil types, and some people claim that they can tell if they came from certain regions. They can taste
a 337 or a 318 crawfish.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to put it.
They know.
There are some facts with that.
Now I feel like I need to eat enough to be able to tell the difference.
You need to go around and sample.
I don't know if you're that good yet.
You need to start.
Okay, wait. I do have a question though about the rare blue crawfish that come up every once in a while, right? What's up with the blue crawfish?
Crawfish come so here in Louisiana, we have two predominant species, the white river crawfish and the red swamp crawfish. Both
is that their actual names, red swamp crawfish?
Right. Well, it's the common name, but they have a scientific name that I'm not going to butcher here. I know it, but I'm not going to go that far. But that's our two predominant species of commercial crawfish. However, we do tend to want the red swamp crawfish because it has the yellow fat, which is actually a liver storage organism, but we call it the fat. Right. That yellow fat. The white river crawfish, that same organ is green. That's what makes it unattractive in a peeled market. Because if a consumer looks at that package and sees that green,
kind of freaky looking,
be like, I don't want that. So that's why peelers do not want the white river
crawfish.
Poor
little white river crawfish.
As far as for boiling, they're fine to consume. I mean, I've eaten them. We've all eaten them most probably. It's because of that peel market. So
got it.
A producer doesn't want that in his ponds because when he gets to that point that he may have to sell as peelers, you don't
want to see that.
The buyer will not want that.
Got it.
That's what distinguishes them. But as far as for being edible, now there are some people again say there's a little taste difference, and there might be. That can cause a problem sometimes. Sure. But the blue crawfish, so crawfish comes in a number of colors. There can be some that tend to be more whitish, like the white river crawfish, or pinkish.
Yeah.
Some are blue. orange. You can have tints of more
Sure.
orange. But the blue is just a color variation. It's a recessive gene that causes it to come out that color.
Okay.
So there, yeah, when
Tastes the same, everyone.
Yeah, we would catch some occasionally on our farm when I was actually fishing way back. Every now and then you'd run across a blue one.
Yep.
And I kept saying, well, we need to put it in an aquarium, and we'd forget.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a few in aquariums. In fact, I think Brady and I went to school at Northwestern, and there was one of the buildings there had a little aquarium, one of the research buildings,
Right.
and they had a little blue crawfish that lived in there.
They do occur naturally.
All right. Fun facts about crawfish.
Thanks again to Todd for joining us here on the show, and thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to this podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please follow along, leave us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever.
That, of course, helps us grow our audience and further share the unique experiences that Lake Charles and Southwest Louisiana have to offer. Go to visitlakecharles.org/podcast for more episodes, advice on where to eat, and events that are happening this weekend. I'm Jillian Quarter.
And I'm Brady Raynard. Thanks again for coming to play at Louisiana's Playground. Sit you.